live, you are live.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and what a glorious morning it promises to be. Welcome to Safari Live. My name is Jamie. I have Scott on camera again with me this morning. Oh, we're being spoiled, treated to the camera talents of Scotty D. And on Rusty heading out, Brent is going to see if he can follow up on Tingana from last night. So that big male leopard that we had yesterday afternoon, he was hungry, he was out hunting. Let's see if he's managed to catch anything. We also have Jerry and Nikki in final control. We're coming to you live from the Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands of the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And as I said, what a glorious morning it promises to be. The birds are singing, the sun is rising. I almost want to break into a Cat Stevens-esque version of Morning Has Broken. But I'm going to spare you those indignities because my singing voice is about as good, or possibly not quite as good, as my animal imitations. And we wouldn't want to start off the morning on that kind of foot. But there are lions calling off to the east. Tingana's around. There are female leopard tracks coming up Twin Dams Road, which of course we assume to be those of the Queen of Djuma, Karula, the leopard that has just had at least one confirmed cub. Now, I will be returning to do a loop around the area just to see if she's popped out. Obviously not going to the den site, which we are not going to be disturbing for a while. Don't forget, if you're joining us for the first time, we are not just live, but we are interactive. So you can send through questions and comments, even if it's to laugh at my animal imitations, on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And as I said, we are live, which means you never know what you're going to expect around the next corner. Now, yesterday afternoon was an absolutely boiling afternoon, and in fact, poor old Jigger's camera had to shut down for some time in order to recover itself from its heat stroke. But that being said, we were just discussing it as we left. We were driving around the various roads of Djuma, talking about how most of the animals are going to be hiding in the shade, and drove straight past a big male leopard who was right next to the road. Sorry guys, just listening to the game drive update. Just listening to Brent, apparently he's found some lion tracks around Gowrie Gate, so he'll definitely be following up there. I heard what I assume to be the Birmingham boys calling around the Gowrie Main cheetah cut line, so our southeastern corner of the reserve. By the way, thank you for all of those of you who sent through the update. Yesterday we said Tingana looked thirsty, and apparently he did indeed go wandering across the dam wall last night, so thank you for those of you who sent through that update. And of course those of you who were listening to the Djuma Dam camera this morning saw the hyena and heard their whooping calls. And we happened to encounter them on our way out of our camp, which is known as the DRC. Like two young males wandering through. They were still thinking about calling. It was more at that point, instead of doing their full whoop, they were doing a bit of a low woo sound. That's pretty much how it was. It was just a woo. But Mary Margaret was wondering if the contact calls of the hyenas would attract lions. And it depends on the context, Mary. It's the giggling sound of hyenas, the sound that they make when they're feeding, that excited sound, might potentially attract lions in the area. And particularly, I've noticed with sub-adult lions tend to exhibit a little bit more curiosity than the others. That being said, it often works in the reverse. So sounds of lions feeding, and they are noisy when they feed. There's lots of growling that happens. Plenty of aggression shown towards the rest of the pride members. And that very often does attract hyenas, so it works in reverse. Do I think that the whooping calls will? Unlikely to. But you never know. while we go and search for those lions that we've been talking about, Brent has found one of the larger animals of June.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. I'm here with one of my favorite creatures in the African bush, a big Ellie bull. So a big adult bull, probably around 40 years old, monster at the shoulder, good 3.5, 4 meters at the shoulder. And he's absolute, oh, sorry, Jamie's very loud. There we go. VT doesn't mind. You can see he's completely covered in mud, and Bryon's going to show you now how the mud is even on his eyelashes. Look at that, isn't that incredible? So to cool down and help deal with some of the ectoparasites, he sprayed himself with mud. Look at that, isn't that incredible? You can see that orange eye there. Just in case you guys are wondering, my name is Brent Deersmith. I have Bryon on camera, and we're on a live African safari, and we're no more than 10 feet away from about 6.5 tons of African elephant bull. Now you can see why an elephant's eyelashes are very important. And there are defensive mechanisms to protect the eye from branches. So as he puts his head into a thorn thicket to feed, those eyelashes will touch different branches and know whether, so he knows whether to close his eye to protect himself. But at the moment, he's out in the open feeding off a little buffalo thorn that has already been pushed down by an elephant previously. So a very big bull. And there's, look at that, there we go. You see a little bit less mud on that eyelash, but on the ear, lots of mud. And if we have a look at that, it's absolutely caked. So yesterday when it was incredibly hot, that cool mud on the ear would have helped to increase the cooling capacity of those ears. And today is going to be another scorcher. It's already over 70 Fahrenheit, and it's 5:30 in the morning. So Lucy in Indiana, speaking of the heat, says, since she couldn't watch last night's drive, how hot did it get? Well, Lucy, it got in centigrade to about 40, in the sun, probably sitting about 46, 47. So I think that's well over 100, maybe close to 110 Fahrenheit. And even one of our cameras decided it was too hot and stopped working for a while. Look at that. Now, if I look at his tusks, you can see there that, interestingly enough, that right tusk is worn. You can see how he's used it to take bark. But this guy seems to be an ambi tusk, because if we look at the other side, which is just hidden for the moment, there's a very distinct grass notch in it. So those little notches that you often see in the end of elephant tusks, hopefully you'll move it out to the open, is from pulling grass over it. So he's utilized both tusks for feeding. It seems like the right tusk for bark and trees, and the left tusk for grass. It's amazing how these big animals can move so silently and quietly when they want to, and make an inordinate amount of noise when they want to as well. Last night, we could hear elephants all all around us, trumpeting and shouting. Itchy ear. So he's, what's he up to? So there's a fallen down branch between us, as you can see, and he's almost looked like he was about to just sort of walk straight through it. I mean, they're incredibly powerful animals. No, it looks like he's going to go around. So X-Ranger on Twitter says, oh, that mud on my eyelash would be so annoying. One must remember that that Ellie, with his prehensile tip to his trunk, would be able to remove that mud from his eyelashes if he found it annoying. So he's not too perturbed with it. Now, strangely enough, before I spotted the Ellie, I spotted something else on the road, and we're going to go back a little bit. Yes, mister, I'm moving slowly. And I'm pretty confident that this is the Nkahumas that have walked through here. So they're the lion tracks. Crossing back into Djuma. So once we finished looking at this beautiful boy, we're going to head out on those lion tracks. He's seen it, he spotted there's a hyena right behind us, and he doesn't like it. Look how he's changed his body position. He might, sometimes, just for the love of the chase, he might chase the hyena. So let me just show you quickly, there's the hyena disappearing through there. But you notice how his body language changed immediately. I thought I'd done something to upset him, but it wasn't. It was just the hyena. So he's gone back to feeding now. I'm just going to move slightly. There's a car that needs to get to the gate. So I'm just going to move off the road so he can get past me. So Alison, a very good morning to you, Alison. Alison is wondering, how long can an elephant tusk grow? Well, recorded well over 2 meters, Alison, so longer than me. And they continue to grow throughout their life, even if it does slow down towards the end of their lives. But I think we're going to leave this big boy as he moves across our western boundary. That's in that beautiful. What a way to start. I'm ecstatic to start with an elephant, and ecstatic that there's some lion tracks to follow. So that's definitely what I'm going to be following next. So let's go have a look if we can see where these lion tracks head off towards. Hopefully they don't disappear out of Djuma just yet. Hopefully the Nkahumas give us a little morning session. So the tracks look to cut straight through here. unfortunately, this is sort of it's right at the corner of Djuma, so there is a possibility that it might have snuck across to Buffel's hook. Sorry, I managed to pull my earpiece out again. I seem to be very good at it at the moment. Very good morning and a warm Safari Live welcome to Tris Does Gaming on YouTube. Tris is wondering, do elephants have a good memory? Obviously, there's quite a lot of folklore about an elephant's memory. They do have a good memory, but I wouldn't say an elephant never forgets. So they do remember areas at certain times. So I would say yes, Tris. I would say elephants have a good memory. What do you think, Bryon?
I'd say they do.
There we go. Bryon agrees. So we up and have a close.
Whoopsie daisy, we appear to have lost Brent there for a moment, but never fear, I'm sure he'll be back up and running and hopefully with the nkuhumas. And we just wanted to stop there for just one moment and show you the sunrise, even on a morning where we have lions to track and things to find and show you. There should be always time taken to stop and stare at the beauty of whatever nature has to provide. And Sandra Evans, who is watching, born and bred in Michigan, has said that she's never seen a sunrise or a sunset in the way that our live safaris provide. And I'm fairly certain that we must have some of the top sunsets and sunrises in the world. And I think there's something about the vastness of the space. There always this feeling when you are within a city that the sky is slightly smaller than it feels like here. I don't know what it is. I guess it's the absence of buildings and noise. But somehow the sky feels far vaster in this kind of setting. Especially with the birds chirping happily away. I was going to draw your attention to the woodlands kingfisher that was calling, but it decided to take that one opportunity to be silent. And I must tell you, when you've experienced heat like the afternoon yesterday, and in fact the evening, where every single person in camp attempted to sleep on wet sheets, towels, kakois, anything that could provide a little bit of relief from the heat. A nice morning like this comes as a huge relief. Hey look, it's Scotty D's shoulder. Cameo appearance by Mr. Scott Dyson. Okay, enough time stopping and staring now. It was lovely, it was beautiful, but we have things to find. Now, if I do not see any sign of the Birminghams or anything like that coming across our eastern boundary, I'm going to head back across and help Brent out look for the nkuhumas. I want to check the eastern boundary because very often they use Djuma as a direct highway, and they use Central Road, for those of you who want to be specific, to go straight through into Torchwood. I'm very shy waterbuck. Not shy so much as just inconveniently placed behind the bush. She is. I might be wrong, but I'm fairly certain she looks pregnant to me. You can just imagine how that fluffy coat would feel incredibly uncomfortable in the heat like yesterday. It's something that always amazes me, that the waterbuck managed to cope with those thick coats. And in fact, there's another waterbuck that I didn't even see, just a little bit to the right of where that one is, lying down. I might just see, hopefully we are able to see the top of her head. She's got a white crown. Look at that. She's got mange across her back, or some kind of skin disease. But look at that, I've never seen a waterbuck with a white head like that, have you, Scott?
No.
It's interesting.
Very fancy.
Very fancy. There's obviously all the rage in waterbuck world. My guess would be, for those of you who were familiar with or regular viewers and remember that white-faced dwarf mongoose that we had, which was one of the most incredible sightings of dwarf mongoose, barring one, that I've had. This thing looked like it was wearing face paint. It was on Halloween as well. It was amazing. It looked like it had skull face paint on. And I emailed a friend of mine to ask about it, and she said when they have some kind of skin disease or anything that's caused the hair to fall out or some kind of scarring around that area, it very often grows back white. I wonder whether that's not the reason behind our waterbuck's very pretty hairdo. It's either that or it's all the rage. Maybe she's a trendsetter, like our wildebeest wearing grass on their heads the other day. This waterbuck has a blonde mohawk. I'm actually going to try and creep forward and look at her from a different angle. And while I do, we're looking at one of the antelopes. Obviously the female doesn't have horns in waterbuck, but the male definitely does. And Ben was wondering if there's any antelope species in this part of the Sabi Sands that have hollow horns that allow for blood flow through them in a way of a sort of a countercurrent cooling mechanism. So essentially where the blood flows along the outside, similar to the way that elephant ears work. Hello, girlie. Oh, very fancy. Now, Ben, in terms of answering that question, I can't think of one off the top of my head. All the antelope species that we get do have solid horns, solid bone, but that being said, they are supplied with blood vessels. I don't think, however, that it has any kind of cooling mechanism. I love this. I've never seen a waterbuck with a white crown. There are different cooling mechanisms within antelopes that use a similar system to the one that you're describing. So that countercurrent cooling mechanism, and the best example is one that we don't see here, but we do see within South Africa itself. I'm certain that that's grown back from some kind of skin disease. But the oryx, or the gemsbok, and huge antelope with the long straight horns, I'm sure you've seen pictures of them before, incredibly beautiful antelope. Brent's got my mammal book, so I can't show you what I mean. No, that's definitely skin disease. That's just grown back white. I'm almost certain of that. It still looks very interesting, very attractive. Plus, she's been so kind and relaxed and bugged by the flies. But yes, the countercurrent cooling mechanism. Basically what the gemsbok do in the hot desert areas as a way of both, it's not necessarily cooling, although it works to a degree. What they do is they trick me into thinking that they're cooler than they are. So essentially the blood that's flowing to the brain is cooled by blood that's flowed through the nose and tricks the hypothalamus into thinking the body's cooler. And that way they can actually raise their body to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And speaking of heat and temperatures, the sun is rising and Brent has got some beautiful scenery to show you in the morning light.
Look at that. Isn't that spectacular? I hope you guys are grabbing a screenshot as that male impala walked through that glorious golden morning light. And we're on the northern boundary of our traverse, the road that leads to nowhere. And there we go. Bryan's going to show you the sun peeking out. Now, as beautiful as that looks, we look at it with trepidation for the rest of the day. And according to the facts I've got, and it's going to get over 40 degrees Celsius in the shade today. So we're in for another scorcher. There is a slight chance we might get a thunderstorm in the afternoon, but I don't think so, to be honest. And
the weatherman lies.
The weatherman lies. There we go. Bryon says the weatherman lies. I don't doubt it's going to get over 40 degrees. I can sort of feel it. Our minimum temperature for today is 22 degrees Celsius. So that is over 70 Fahrenheit. That is our minimum temperature for the day. So those of you who religiously watch the dam cam, it should be a really good day during the heat to keep an eye on that. So we're seeing if we can find any tracks of Mr. Tingana. See if he's popped this way. Unfortunately, the Inkahumas have snuck straight across into Buffalo's Hook there. And their tracks have crossed just behind us. We're hoping they might meander back, but probably not. So let's go look for some leopard. Just going very slowly, checking the road very carefully. So a very good warm morning welcome to Robin in Maryland, who'd like to know how far we are from Nkoro. So let me just get past this large marula and I'll point out more or less where Nkoro is from us. We're probably, as the crow flies, about 8 or 9 kilometers. Robin's just letting me know that there are 2 cheetah at Nkoro right now. So we've got the sun maybe a little bit further past these trees so we can see the horizon nicely. So here we go. There's the sun. So that's east, and Nkoro's on the horizon, probably about there, but about 9 kilometers. So quite far from us. But cheetah are great travelers, so fingers crossed that they travel towards Juma this morning and during the day, and James and Scott find them on Sunset Safari.
It's incredible. We have been so lucky with the snake sightings we've had. And in this case, we've got another huge mamba. Look at that. Here's a mamba, hey, Scotty? Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I just want to get a perspective of how long
Look at how long the snake is. Incredible. How lucky have we been with the snake sightings that we've had? We gave him as much of a surprise as he gave us. Where is he going to go? He's going to duck under that log. Oh, yes, go into the tree, go into the tree. That's exactly what we want you to do. We want to have a look at you. We have been unbelievably lucky. This mamba is easily close to 2 meters, like the one we saw, not quite as big as the one that we saw on Battalier Road the other day, but plenty big enough. Let's try go forward a bit. Let's get you a different view. He was basking in the morning light, or trying to at least. Hello, boy or girl. What an incredible sight. Hey, Scotty, how exciting is this? Look at him go. The strength of these snakes, to me, is one of the most phenomenal things to watch. The degree of muscular control that they have over their movements. To be able to hold up essentially 2/3 of their body and move from branch to branch. It's one of the most remarkable aspects of them. And what's so fascinating to me, this is the second mamba sighting that I've had where I've come round the corner and it's just been lying in the middle of the road. And both times, the mamba's retreated to a tree, which I find fascinating. I would have expected it to disappear under or towards the safety of a log. I had no idea that they were quite so arboreal in terms of their safety mechanisms. Hello. Look at you. Aren't you beautiful? The tongue flickering. You can see how, I suppose it makes sense when Scott zooms out like that to give you a perspective of how it disappears. And a warm welcome to Kristen N, who's wondering exactly where we are in South Africa. We're coming to you live, which is what makes this so incredibly exciting. At the moment, we're sitting on the eastern corner of our property, and we've been so fortunate to have had this black mamba sighting. So essentially where we are, Kristen, if you're familiar with the greater Kruger area of South Africa, it's in the northeastern corner of South Africa, an enormous wilderness area that if you total up all of the different reserves that are included and open to this wildlife protected area, it comes up to close to 4 million hectares, 4 million football fields, to put it into a rough perspective, of untouched wilderness. And we get these incredible moments with snake sightings like this. And the snake sightings this year have been incredible. We've discussed it before as a group, as guides. And I personally don't remember ever having as many sightings as we have now. I'm going to try and roll backwards. I think that there's a chance that that head is going to move again, but let's see if we can get it. Just have to bear with the motion sickness for a moment. Oh, we have to go forward again. There we go. That's as good as it's going to get. Oh no.
All good.
Let you take your foot off the brake.
There we go.
Look at that. Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mamba.
More zoom.
I know. We need the super zoom. We rush Brent here to look at our Mamba. No. He's got lines to look for. Oh, look at that. Now, it's amazing how we all have a natural atavistic response to snakes like this, but as soon as you learn a little bit more about them, and there goes the head, as per... Come back. But yes, as soon as you learn more about them and you discover what incredible creatures they are in terms of their physiological design, the way that they're adapted. So for new viewers who are unfamiliar with black mambas, although I bet you most of you are, this is probably one of the most deadly, in fact, it is definitely one of the most deadly snakes, if not the most deadly. And the reason behind that is the type of venom that it has and is capable of injecting through its fangs is neurotoxic, which means, obviously, it targets the nerve cells. What happens to its victims is that they become almost instantly paralyzed, and it restricts their breathing flow and often sends them into cardiac arrest, which makes it one of the most efficient hunters. It's a daytime hunter, it's an active hunter. Certain snakes are ambush hunters, things like slow-moving snakes like adders, like a puff adder. But a mamba is an active hunter. It seeks out its prey during the day. That being said, they have a terrible reputation for being aggressive snakes, aggressive and dangerous snakes. They are dangerous, certainly, and they are to be absolutely treated with respect. I'm trying to think if there's an angle that I can get that head at.
I think he's just going to keep moving.
I think he's going to keep moving. Moving downwards slowly.
Here he comes, perfect.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Peekaboo. Playing peekaboo with a black mamba. Goes to show you don't know what to expect. I was going somewhere else with that train of thought, but I got distracted. Oh, look at that coffin-shaped head. And Ralph has suggested that I've missed my calling as a snake wrangler, given the luck that I've had with snakes. And I get so excited by sightings like this. It is so unusual. You have no idea. To be able to sit with a mamba like this. Look at that. You can see the perfect shape of the head. And that it's coiling back. We really have been lucky. We've had cobras. Scott, you had a black mamba as well, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say, while we watch this head, that they've got this unfair reputation for being aggressive. They're not necessarily aggressive snakes. They will never chase somebody. They are always more likely to choose their first line of defense to move away from you. What they do try and do is often, when you've surprised them, they rear up and do what's known as a body slam and slam themselves onto the ground. And that's a way of scaring off people so that they don't have to bite you. It's not aggression. In that, it's fear. It's a fear response to what's happening around them. They're not going to chase you, even though they are very rapid moving snakes. And despite the best laid rumors, they're not faster than a man running, although they are very, very fast. But their strike is incredibly speedy. Why is it called a black mamba? Because the inside of their mouth, what we were saying about that threat display, the inside of their mouth is pitch black. Another way of making them look more terrifying. It's important to remember that about 90% of the snake bites that occur in these areas occur to people who are trying to handle, catch, play with dangerous snakes without the necessary skill level. They will never actively seek out and try and harm a human being. It's easy to think of them as being primitive, but that's the exact opposite of what they are. Mario, who was watching our previous snake sighting, Mario's 7 years old, and the last time we had our mamba sighting, Mario was watching and was a little bit worried for us and wanted to know if we were scared. And this morning, Mario would like to know if this is the same snake. And Mario, it's not the same snake. I'm fairly certain it isn't, for a couple of reasons. One is that we are quite far away, and the snakes generally, especially ones of this size, tend to move about in the same areas. But two, it's much smaller. So the one that, not much smaller, I mean, this is still a large snake, but the one that we had the other morning was probably about at least 30 centimeters, or what would that be in inches? 15 inches longer and much, much thicker. And generally snakes, when they start to get older, they reach a limit in terms of their length. But what they do is they grow thicker and thicker. Now that snake that we saw the other day was about probably at least as thick as the top of my forearm, if not larger. I don't have the world's largest forearm, obviously. This one's a little bit thinner. I'm trying to think of a good example. But just to give you a sort of rough scale, it's probably about that wide at its widest point. So it's a different one. The snake that we saw before did have a scar or a puncture wound that I think will eventually heal, but was quite useful as an identifying feature. And in fact, that sighting that Scott had we suspect it might be the same snake. I wouldn't go so far as to call myself an IDing expert. I wouldn't claim to recognize individual Mambas, but just that scar makes it nice and simple. The other thing that makes snakes so terrifying to people is that they don't blink. And you'd be surprised at the impact that that has on a mammal, because automatically we see staring as a threat display. And if you've ever participated in a staring competition with someone, you'll know exactly what I mean. And that probably stems back from ancient instincts, where if a big predator, like a leopard or a lion or, I don't know, saber-toothed tiger or whatever you want to go back into history and look at, if that thing is looking at you focused and unblinking, or looking at our ancestors focused and unblinking, it is instantly slightly more scary because it might mean that you are their next meal. So the fact that snakes don't have a movable eyelid, unlike certain lizard species, means that they look just that little bit scarier. So they do have an eyelid, it's fixed and it's clear, and it sits over their eyes. And Siberia, while we have this opportunity to look at its face and having chatted about its eyes, you're wondering what kind of an eyesight it has. And the answer is it's not as good as, for example, an active hunter like a boomslang or a vine snake. They've got incredibly large eyes that allow them to see non-moving objects within trees that they hunt. Generally, for the rest of the snakes, their vision is movement-based, and it's more combined. Their overall picture of their world is more about a combination of the sense and their heat receptors combined with a degree of vision. So they can see, and I wouldn't call it poor eyesight, but for a Mamba species, for example, it's not as good as something like a vine snake or a boomslang. That being said, he can clearly see us. And Diane, having spoken about how lucky we've been with snake sightings. Oh, and I forgot to say, Siberia Zumi has said that Scott's camera work is incredible, and I completely agree. He's done a wonderful job of bringing us the most incredible images of this snake hiding in a bush willow, pretending to be invisible. Hello. And yes, we are so lucky to have snake sightings like this. This is now my second Mamba sighting, I think, in my life, that I've been able to sit with it for so long. At a safe, comfortable distance where both us and the snake feels perfectly at home. But Diane was wondering, is it maybe the drought that's having an effect on the number of snakes that we're seeing? And it's an interesting point. As I said, we discussed it as guides and the number of snake sightings we've had. And I think, yes, the drought plays a role to a certain degree, and I think most clearly in the fact that there's very little grass cover. Now, in midsummer, when snakes are at their most active, usually in this kind of area, the grass would be up to at least our knees and very dense. So the snakes moving through would go about their business unspotted and probably disappear more comfortably as well. Whereas at the moment, we can see very clearly. I mean, in this case, that wasn't what happened, because we came around the corner, it was lying in the road. There was a very sharp slamming of brakes. Scott nearly went flying through into the camera. Another one of those surprises. It's one of those skills that you practice. Peripheral vision. Because you're so busy looking up and ahead for animals, you've got to remember that there are things close to you as well.
Yesterday and today. Yesterday it was Tingana.
Yes, yesterday it was Tingana. This morning it was a black mamba. We're on a roll, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And as Scott zooms out ever so slightly, you can see just how clearly that snake disappears into the tree. And Kat in Tampa has noticed that as well and has said, it looks just like a tree branch. Could it be going after birds? And that's entirely possible. Birds are definitely on their menu. In this case, though, I think it sought refuge in the tree in response to our presence. I think it was busy basking, warming up. And probably we're getting lucky with the snakes as well because it's nice and warm first thing in the morning. So the snake had come out to bask, even though it is still very early, before 6:30 in the morning. And they are diurnal snakes. So they are daytime snakes. Jeffrey, you and I are on the same page there, that the snake could well have been basking. It's always possible it was on the hunt as well, since it is nice and warm, but I think it was more likely anticipating the rays of the sun. Very common to find snakes in the middle of the road. It's a nice open spot for them. It retains the heat better, so it's not just basking, it's also coming to lie on the ground in an open area that's been exposed to the sun all of yesterday. What an incredible sighting this has been. And B, who is 11 years old and watching in Indiana, you were wondering, is he going up in the tree to give it a good vantage point to watch for things to hunt? Or is it going up into the tree to sleep? As I mentioned earlier, I've been quite surprised by both of my Mamba sightings in that the snake has sought refuge in the tree. B, I think he's gone into the tree to give him a nice high view, him or her. It's impossible for us to tell. Give him a nice view of us, and it feels safe because there's plenty of leaves to hide it, and we've given it a comfortable distance. So it hasn't gone to sleep. It's gone up into the tree to keep an eye on us and to watch what we do and to feel a little bit safer. It's actually starting to relax a little bit. I wonder if it's going to decide to come down.
Catch something.
Catch something, yes. Our first kill of the morning. Imagine if that was a Mamba kill. That would be incredible. And just like all animals, a snake is an opportunist. Jared is on the same page. Jared thinks that a Mamba kill would be awesome to see. Neither Scott nor myself are volunteering though. We'll have to wait until something decides to come along. Maybe a bird or something like that. It's also amazing the way that they rest their weight on the branches that they wrap themselves around. Come on, buddy, we want to see your head. Your head's the most fascinating part of you. And Ellen, who is watching in Arkansas, has been watching documentaries on snakes and saw something on a boa that has a hook beneath its tail to attach itself to the female during mating. And you were wondering if there's any snakes along within our area that have something similar. And the answer is yes, absolutely. And what's fascinating about that is that those are actually evolutionary evidence that snakes evolved from reptiles with legs. They're actually rudimentary remainders of the evolutionary line, at which point the snakes lost them. So our old world snakes, or some of the species that have been around the longest, for example, an African rock python, actually have those two stubs. that stick out just towards the back end around the cloaca, which is the excretory and reproductive opening. And in the males, they are slightly more pronounced and allow the male to clasp onto the female during mating. So yes, we do. As far as I know, the python in this area is the only one that has that. I can't think of any other rudimentary snakes that do. And they have a special name. And Ellen, if you give me a couple of minutes, it will come back to me. Sometimes the brain just doesn't quite get into the program that I need. It's filed away somewhere in the storage system, misfiled, in the wrong drawer of information. I'll just have to go sifting through and find it. I do know what they're called. Oh well, what I can do, I suppose, is put it out to you guys and see if you can remember what those rudimentary legs are called, because I certainly can't. Well, this has been incredible, and while we've been sitting enjoying a mamba sighting, Brent has been working very hard to follow up on those lion tracks. So let's pop over to him and get an update.
So, look at that incredibly beautiful little grasshopper. Designed to look like leaf litter or a stone. I just spotted it as it hopped across the road in front of us. And I've been looking very, very carefully at the road, and I've got some good news for everyone, that the Inkahumas have crossed back into Juma. The last tracks come off the boundary and are heading towards Hyena Road. So there are some pans that might possibly have a little bit of water. So we're going to check around there. But if not, they might have headed through this block towards the remnants of a waterhole that was once known as Buffalo's Hook. So hopefully we do have some luck with these lions. We're going to keep on these tracks. And while we do that, you guys are having the most fantastic sighting of a black mamba. I'm slightly jealous. Everyone else seems to have the fantastic black mamba sightings. I seem to get them disappearing into the distance. So, well, let's go enjoy that with Jamie, and hopefully we'll be able to pull a cat or two out of the bag.
And what we've managed to do is sneak up a little bit closer. As you can see, the snake's keeping an eye on us, but it doesn't feel threatened. It hasn't moved away from us in any way. It just allows us to get a better view of that incredible face and that wide gaping jaw. And of course, as you will know, most snakes have loosely hinged or non-fixed hinged jaws, which allows them to stretch open their mouth wide and wrap around prey species far bigger than any other animal is capable of eating. And that incredibly slow metabolism that allows them to digest very slowly and then manage to efficiently run off the fuel provided by one meal possibly even every couple of weeks before they need to hunt and eat again. And there you go. So Mike in Florida, you were wondering about how long a mamba can go in between meals. It's one of those fascinating things about snakes in particular, but all reptiles, and their ectothermic lifestyle. So we think of it as primitive, and I know that I keep harping on about this, but I think it's one of those fascinating misconceptions that we have as human beings, and I'm certainly as guilty as anyone else. We think of ectotherms as being primitive in that they have to rely on external forces to control their body temperature. But unlike mammals, they don't have to utilize almost, I think the percentage is something like 80 or 90% of their fuel and their energy in terms of maintaining body temperature. So in certain mammal species, particularly in extreme climates like this, whereas with these animals, they don't have to utilize that metabolic effect to either heat up or cool down, particularly heating up. And they've got very, very slow metabolisms as a result. What that means is that they're energy efficient and they don't have to eat nearly as often as the mammal species. So if we compare it, for example, let's say to an elephant as a herbivore, which maybe isn't a fair comparison, but a huge elephant that needs to eat pretty much 22 hours out of every 24, or let's compare it to our Nkahuma lionesses that Brent has been tracking. They need to eat roughly every 3 days, depending on the meal size. And this mamba, depending on what it catches, and for a snake this size, a squirrel would easily be on the menu, a small squirrel. A bird species, a large gerbil or a rat would also be a possibility. And they can easily go for a couple of weeks, Mike, and to any other viewers wondering about their dietary requirements. A couple of weeks before they need to hunt again. It's slightly different, so ambush predators versus active hunters. So I've said that, oh, look at that. I'm going to try. Let me just see if its head pops out before I move. That's such a beautiful snake. I think I'm going to move forward slightly. One thing I forgot to do is take my foot off the brake, so the camera might rock a little bit. There we go. Not Scott's fault, my fault.
Oh, look at this.
Look at it, it's incredible. Oh, what a fantastic sighting. And as I said, that atavistic response runs very powerfully in people to be afraid of snakes, somewhat unfairly. But in this case, it is a rational fear, because they are powerfully venomous snakes. He's hidden his head behind a branch there, hey? Awesome. Oh, look at it. And as we watch this phenomenal predator move along this bush willow branch, important to remember just how incredible the aspect of that venom production is. And it's quite demanding on that snake's body. Curtis, you were wondering if the venom from a mamba could kill an elephant. My suspicion is yes, certainly a young one, but if you asked about a full-grown elephant, the difficulty there is the fact that the fangs probably wouldn't penetrate the skin of the elephant. But I wouldn't go so far as to say it is impossible. Maybe if an elephant's trunk went investigating the wrong place and the snake happened to lash out in fear, it could possibly contain enough. And just one tiny little drop of that is enough to kill both Scott and myself. But very often, especially with large snakes like this, because the venom is such a demanding substance to produce, and because the adults have learned control, or to have control, over the secretions of their venom glands. Look at that tongue flickering out, building up a sensory picture of its world. And because that is the case, a lot of the adults of this size will be capable of doing what's known as a dry bite, which is a threat and a strike, but they don't actually inject venom into the victim. Not a chance I want to take, though. It's usually the young snakes, in terms of venomous snakes, that are the most dangerous, because they don't have that control over their venom gland. Look at him, sneaking down the tree. I'm absolutely spellbound by this creature, and because it has been so kind to descend slightly, I'm not going to try and shift to reposition at the moment. I'm going to let it come back into view for us. He's making Scott work here. Scott, tricky one.
It's awesome.
This is incredible. Watching it decide where to go next, building up a picture of where it wants to be. And when it's stretched out like this, I'm getting an actual perspective on how long it is. My 2-meter estimate, I think, was conservative. I think this one is over 2 meters long. Look at it reaching down for the next branch. Oh, this is such a stunning snake. At 2 meters, 6 feet, Alison was wondering what the longest snake I've ever seen is. Oh, my word. Alison, I can't even answer your question just yet. I'm mesmerized. The power and the beauty of this animal. Absolutely spellbinding. Alison, I think the longest snake I've seen was the biggest snouted cobra to date that I've ever seen, which was probably about 2.5 meters long. I haven't been lucky enough to view some of the longest rock pythons that we might get out here. Scott, I don't know what your longest snake sighting is. This one is still a fair-sized length. I'd say it falls into my top 15 longest snakes ever, probably top 10 of actual sightings that I've got to enjoy.
For sure. This is incredible.
This is amazing. For new viewers, this does not happen every day. This is special.
And we're close to it.
And we're so close to it, and it's so relaxed. Look at that. Get a rough idea of the distance. It's absolutely awesome. Now, I'm sure a lot of you get worried when you see something like this. Now, bear in mind, as I said before, the snake is more afraid of us than we are of it. Well, not at the moment, clearly. It's not showing any signs of fear. But if we were to do anything, it would immediately move off. So you don't need to feel, that snake is not going to actively hunt us. You don't need to feel concerned about Scott or myself in any way. We certainly aren't. Although my heart's beating faster just from the sheer pleasure of the sighting. It really is not every day that you get to experience something like this. To be privileged enough to share the space with this incredible snake. The way that it's twined its body, hanging its full weight down the tree. I wonder how much the snake weighs. I'm trying to think. Snakes are heavy. They are muscular creatures, and they're heavier than they look. Thank you very much, Michelle. I'm fairly certain you are absolutely correct, and that the spurs that we were talking about, or the remnants of the legs on the pythons and the older snake species, are indeed called pelvic spurs. Look at there, there's the tip of the tail. Unbelievable. Taking a journey along the body of a black mamba. Blown away, absolutely blown away. And Tom in Dallas and Christopher, so we've spoken about the speed of the snake. Tom wanted to know if a human being could outrun the snake, and Tom has provided an interesting take on the word aggression, saying that it's probably misused, and in this sense, given to a snake that can move 6 meters per second is automatically going to provoke a flight response within human beings. So there you go, Christopher. 6 meters per second is a very, very fast snake. However, we could outrun it at full speed. That being said, there is no human being in the world that could outrun the strike speed, if that makes sense. They're capable of launching themselves forward easily two-thirds of their body, if not more. We were talking about that little shield nose snake. Thank you, Scott. I had a moment. We were talking about this tiny little snake that we found. It was incredibly beautiful. It was a shield cobra, or a shield nose snake. And we were looking it up in the books and just researching a bit about it. And it can actually launch itself forward when it strikes a full length of its body, almost like a jump. Snakes can't jump, but they can. They've got such powerful control over their muscles that they can launch themselves forward. Look at that beautiful black tongue. We are so privileged. And watch now as this snake chooses not to advance on us, but to move slowly along the log and go about its daily business. I don't know about you, Scott, but I'm totally spellbound by watching the way the snake moves. The control that it has over that body weight. Now, it's certainly a beautiful, incredible creature that inspires awe and respect. And Ralph was wondering, are there any animals out there that might tackle a 2-meter cobra to feed on it? And Ralph, as it slides past the front of our car and disappears into the crevice of the log, the only things that I can really think of capable of tackling a snake of this size and power, and even then I think it would think twice, would be something like a secretary bird, maybe a honey badger if it was feeling brave, and we know that honey badgers are brave, and that they have a certain level of resistance to the snake venom. Oh, this snake is huge. To see it so close and to get this perspective, oh, it's beautiful. Totally spellbound by this snake. What an incredible experience. Disappearing off into the root system and tunnel system. He probably knows this area like the back of his hand. Oh, sorry, Ralph, yes, secretary birds, maybe a ground hornbill if it was feeling brave. And of course, smaller snakes or smaller mambas would definitely be far more at risk. And I'm just letting him, even though he's disappearing, so he's given us not the clearest view, I'm just letting him slither off unharassed, since he or she or it has been so obliging. Interestingly, reptiles lack one of the lobes of within their brains that mammals have that allow for the more complex aspects of learning. But I must say this is the most habituated mamba I've ever come across. So relaxed, and probably because it has reached this phenomenal size, it's given it a certain sense of security. Also, we haven't behaved as a threat to it. We have never directly approached it, apart from when we first spotted it in the road. And even then, we immediately backed off, so we made it clear to the snake that we weren't interested in hunting it. And just like that, unless you knew it was there, I think you would have a very hard time spotting a snake like that. Awesome. But I think we're done for today with our black mamba snake. Disappearing off. I don't want to try and reposition and stress it out any more than I have to. Awesome. Bye-bye. Beautiful mamba. Hey, Scott, that was epic. Epic. Sure. Bye-bye, Black Mamba. Thank you for an exceptionally pleasant start to the morning. Really doesn't get much better than that. I think we should probably go help Brent find those lions now. It's getting ridiculous, and since Scott and I seem to be on a roll, we'll probably come around the corner and they'll be lying just there, just waiting for us, because that's the kind of day we're having. Now, when we first came across that snake, it was stretched out in the middle of the road in front of us and looking perfectly at ease, but Harper was wondering, does a snake have to be coiled in order to strike forwards? And no, not fully. They are more than capable of just extending that little bit that they need to. So the muscles of a snake, and it depends, of course, on the snake that you're talking about. So an ambush predator, most of the time, is naturally coiled. Something like a puff adder is naturally coiled in its hunting ambush position. Whereas with a black mamba, they're moving through the grass in a forwards motion. If their prey is in front of them, they need to be able to move forward and get to that position in order to strike. They don't have time to coil themselves back and then extend forward. And having twice now been in one of these Mamba sightings on our live safaris where I've come round the corner, they've been in the road. That first sighting that we had, the snake went from basking flat to rising up 2/3 of its body without even thinking about coiling, so retracting backwards first and then extending upwards. So it makes sense that they don't have time in the way that they hunt to be able to coil backwards and then shoot forwards. Absolutely incredible. Thank you very much, Sherry. Sherry's given us an update because I was expressing curiosity as to how much that snake might have weighed. Sherry says the average weight of a black mamba is about 3 kilograms. I would even go so far as to say that that one is slightly heavier. It's hard for me to tell. All that muscle and power, compact little bodies, incredible. But thank you, Sherry. 3 kilograms, roughly 6 to 7 pounds. My guess with that one would be maybe just a little bit more. But thank you very much, Sherry. I really appreciate it. So while we head off and see if we can help Brent with his lion tracking, let's pop over to him and find out how it's going. As you can see, in the time that the space that you went to poor old Brent and his signal disappeared, I managed to put my hat on, and that was about it. So, you find me fairly unchanged, apart from the hat sitting on my head. Poor old Brent having a bit of a struggle with Rusty in certain areas of the reserve. It's one of those tricky things. So sometimes maybe to the viewers it might look like we're not putting in the effort to try and track something, but you find yourself all of a sudden without signal, so you've got to move to where you do have signal, which is why, because I'm on jigger, I'm going to rush off to try and help Brent to follow up on where those rumours have gone. And I'm actually going to get hold of him on the Game Drive channel. Oh, no I'm not, because somebody's just started a conversation. I'll just bear with that one moment. Apparently there is one lioness on First Rock, which is on Torchwood. Oh, hold on, there's two. I'm just listening. Yeah, Torchwood. Those are the lions that we could hear calling this early this morning. Stunning morning. So I wonder which lions those are. If they're sitting on Torchwood, I don't think I've missed any Nkahuma tracks coming to the east. But you never know, I got so distracted by that black mamba, anything could have happened. Brent for Jamie. Brent, sorry, I got distracted with black mamba sighting. Where were the last tracks? Okay, copy that. I'm just coming up to Gwaripan now. I might check Gwaripan Road just in case. A very obliging little Dacre. I'm hoping she's going to stay still. Hello, Gilly. Hello, little girl. Shame if you've got flies all over you. Not often that we get to see a nice relaxed Dacre sighting. She's frozen. You can't see me, you can't see me. I'm a tree, I'm a tree, I'm a tree. Except the flies are driving me mad, so I can't stay still like a tree. But I'm a tree, I swear. Actually nice and relaxed. Or not. I think I'm safe, but I'm not sure. Also hungry. But I'm going to keep an eye on you. Nibbling away at a buffalo thorn. So for those new viewers, this is a common or a grey daker. It's the same member of the family as the smallest antelope in the world. No, those words were completely mixed up. It is a member of the same family. Let's try that again. It is a member of the same family of the smallest antelope in the world, the blue daker, which does occur in South Africa, but not within the Sabi Sands. This is one of the smallest antelope species that we see out here. And these little antelope species are fascinating to watch. They mate for life, and they remain together unless one of them dies. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are faithful. So they defend their little territories, and they are tiny little territories, sort of 300 meters squared. And the male and the female will spend their evenings together and then go off foraging separately. And if this little female happened to encounter another male, she would mate with him, but then return back to her mate, and he would happily raise the offspring as his own, probably thinking that it is his own. And off she goes. Awesome little creatures. And that sound that you can hear as we watch our little female daker disappear is a yellow-billed hornbill, and I can't actually see where they are. And they're being very noisy. Bye-bye, little daker. Thank you for being so obliging. I love watching the way that they delicately pick their way through. And we don't think of it, but as Scott and myself have experienced before, when you go walking through the bush, you always have to keep an eye out on where you're going in the thorn trees. I don't know where these hornbills are. I hear them. They're hidden in the marula somewhere. Let's try rolling forward a bit to see if we can spot them. But yes, the delicate way in which antelopes are capable of picking their way through the environment without falling into holes or knocking themselves on trees or scratching themselves. I don't understand this. This is an invisible hornbill.
Very strange mystery.
This is a mystery.
Must be right on the top.
It has to be. It has to be hidden. Ah! Oh! There it goes. Well done, Scott. Scott doing some expert camera work there, managing to catch it as it flew away.
Well, I don't know if I caught it.
You definitely did at the back when the antenna came into view.
Well, that was a lucky.
Well done, Scotty. No. Skill, man. Absolute skill. And Scott, by the way, for those of you joining us for the first time, is employed at WildEarth as a presenter. However, he is kindly acting as cameraman this morning and yesterday afternoon, and exhibiting just how multi-talented he can be. Now, an update for those of you wondering about my chat with Brent and what we discussed. So the tracks come in around Hyena Roads. They cross back in from Buffelshoek. Brent wants to take a walk around the block because he hasn't seen any tracks coming out here. He's checked all around Buffelshoek Dam and around Central. He hasn't seen that there are tracks coming out. The difficulty comes with Hyena Road itself. And the reason I say that is Hyena Road is quite a tricky one to see tracks on. Speaking from experience, I've definitely missed animals crossing there before. There's a lot of grass and a lot of very solid mud. And even with a big cat like a lion, they can walk over something pretty much undetected. And we're going to go check along here just in case he did miss those tracks coming through. I wonder where our lionesses have wandered off to. Now, last night there were definitely patches of cloud and the wind was blowing, which, as you know, it's got something as well. Let's go forward. Oh, sorry, Scotty.
The birds, they do that.
Birds, live birds. Where's it gone? There's an African hawk eagle with a bird. I think it had a chick. African hawk eagles are well-adapted bird hunters. Where have you gone? Is that it there? No. Oh. It's one of these things about live safaris is you never know what you're going to find. And you've got those split seconds to stop and make a decision. And unfortunately, we missed that African hawk eagle. Oh, look at the clouds coming in. Rain is predicted. I'll believe it when I see it, is what I've learned, or the approach that I've learned to have over the last few months in our drought. But in theory, rain is predicted. I'm also just sitting here in the hope that that hawk eagle makes itself known. Trying to see if I can spot it. Unfortunately, I think it's gone towards that drainage line of Nyala Road North, which would definitely not be a good place for us to take the vehicle, as our signal will disappear and we will vanish from your screens, which of course none of us want. Where are you, hawk eagle? So an African hawk eagle, and I'm going to show you a picture in a moment. I just wanted to double check to see if we couldn't see it. And I know it's frustrating, it's one of those frustrating things to then see a picture of something that you could have seen in the flesh, so to speak, but we just missed out on. Sorry, just checking for lion tracks because we want to miss them coming across here. An African hawk eagle usually hunts in pairs and are specialized bird hunters. I'm fairly certain that's what they managed to catch. And they'll actually work together, which is quite unusual in raptor species. They'll actually work together as a pair in their mated pairs to hunt down and catch guinea fowls. So one flies higher, one flies lower, and they basically become ambush predators, aerial ambush predators. Unfortunately, they're very camera shy, aerial ambush predators. No, Scotty, it's gone.
No luck.
No luck. Oh well. Ooh. There was a baby Dacre there as well. Oh my goodness. Did you smell something as I came around that corner?
I didn't.
Maybe my imagination. I'll go back. Those Dacre shouldn't have gone too far. I hope it's not like our hawk eagle. Vanishing acts. About, I don't know where it's gone. Such a disappointment. Oh, things are running away from us this morning. But that Dacre that we saw out on her own, Tammy was wondering if it was the mate of the Dacre that the wild dogs killed yesterday. Scott, did they kill a Dacre or was it a Steenbokkie? It was a Steenbokkie, so Tammy, no worries there. We're also, just to give you a rough idea of perspective of distance, we're probably about, sorry, I'm looking for the Dacre at the same time. I don't think we're going to have luck though. There's a big drainage line for them to hide in. But yes, just to give you a rough idea of distance, probably about 2.5 kilometers away from where we are now. And given the small size of Dacre territories, even if it were a Dacre that they had killed, it is unlikely to be the mate of that particular individual. So it's very common to see the small antelope species moving about separately on their own. They don't always forage together as a mated pair. And just to give you an idea of how small those territories were, you were with me when we saw that female Dacre, and we've been driving along the whole time at a fairly slow speed, and we've just seen it, well, I've just seen another Dacre dash off with a youngster, so that's another female. So their territories are small, and they generally don't stray beyond those boundaries unless they're looking for mating opportunities. Oh, I suppose, since we haven't been able to put either the hawk eagle or the Dacre on screen, I should probably show you the picture that I promised you. of the hawk eagle. It's one of the most striking birds of prey. Oh, chaos reigns. There we go. Scott's going to show you the beautiful sky. While I look up African hawk eagle. Just bear with me. Bear with me one moment, because James is trying to get hold of either Brent or myself. Go ahead, James. That's affirmative, James. Are you able to provide one? Copy that, thank you. I'm on my way. Right, sorry, totally distracted. There's your African hawk eagle. Beautiful bird, but we don't have time to actually look at it because James has found a leopard. So we're going. Copy, thanks, James. I'm quite far, but Brent is being black screen, so I'm going to race there. I think I'm going to come from Zoe's Road. That's affirmative. Okay. I'm just going to stick to James directly there. Oh, we have to race though. We are far, far away. Safari in case James decides to disappear. Brent is tracking lions on foot, so the morning has taken a turn pretty exciting. But oh my word, we've got distance to carry, so we're going to be doing a mad race. We can't send you across to Brent while we race there. You just have to bear with us. Scott's going to cling on to the back, deal with all of the speed bumps in the way. There, and it's one that I think we'd all have different approaches to answering. So as we race along, Scott yesterday, ouch, I'm going to take my hat off because otherwise it's going to go flying and we don't have time to stop and fetch it. So yesterday Scott was following wild dogs at quite the pace, it seems, as were Brent and myself on the Mahindra. And Heidi was wondering if Scott was going as fast as he was yesterday, would he have been able to do the same thing with guests on board? I think you'd find that approaches differ in this respect, but yes, I think absolutely we could. You'd have to tell them to hold on, and you'd have to be a bit more careful with the bumps. So we're on a short wheelbase Land Rover. I'm trying to think of the fastest way, and I think the cut line's going to be the quickest. Yeah, I think gotta go shortcuts down Zoe's. Whee! Bumpy, bumpy. So essentially what happens when you go over those bolsters or those bumps or any kind of bump in the bush, it springs up the back slightly. So the longer your vehicle, the bigger the spring, essentially. And it's always a delicate balance between getting the sighting and making sure that your guests are very safe. And we've never ever, all of us have worked as guides before, we've never endangered our guests before. But you've got to try. You've got to say to people, just hang on. And you read the guests. Obviously, if you've got people who maybe are a little bit elderly, maybe small children, you've got to be more careful. Or if they've got any kind of injuries, you usually put those with back injuries or back problems closer to the front so that they don't spring off the back. You would have done it, hey Scott?
Yes.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it does depend.
It does depend on your guests. Yeah. Now there are patches in this route that I have to take, like this dip, where I might disappear from your screens, but never fear, it will be temporary. For we are on Jigga, and Jigga is a pro at this whole live safari deal. this is good news. It seems as though Brent is back up and running. So I'm going to send you across to him so I can speed along unimpeded, and I'll catch up with you very shortly, hopefully without leopard.
There we go. We can see the lion tracks on the road. I've come back to the last set of tracks I've had. I have not been able to find any more, but they're the tracks, and I've checked. I've walked up and down the road here. Now you can see where I've marked the tracks with my feet as I was walking, and all the tracks head into Djuma, but they are just seeming to get the better of me at the moment. So it's really, really hard ground up ahead, and we've checked further to the east, so they're either right here, somewhere very close, or they might have headed down towards the center of Djuma, towards the Mawati, or even down towards the dam. Who knows? So we're going to head back that way, do another loop. This is the only section of this area we haven't checked. We've checked all the way towards the boundary, and I hear, there goes Scott and Jamie racing down the road towards us. So should we play with them a bit, guys? Should we chastise them for driving over our tracks? I think so. Play a little game on them. Here they come, Ferraring safaring. And we do apologize for all the tech difficulties we're having this morning. The vehicle seems to not be playing along, and there's Scott and Jamie. Come on. Why are you destroying my tracks? Where am I? You're destroying my tracks, both of you. I'm unimpressed now.
You're making a challenge.
You're making a challenge. Yeah, I'm going to keep going. You can go. That's fine. They go off here. Bye.
Bye.
I can't find where they go, but anyway, I'll keep trying. Let's go. When it comes to tracking, perseverance is definitely the order of the day. So hopefully Rusty decides to keep its signal for a while we head down here. As you'll see, as we get on, the ground becomes really hard. But I haven't found any tracks crossing to the north, which is a good thing. And we've stopped and listened on the top of the crest here, hoping we would hear that. But no such luck. So I'm thinking they've gone right into the center of this area here. We have absolutely no tracks crossing this road in front of us. We've already been down it. And let's hope Bryan's eagle eyes spot the one sleeping block. Always when and it is a so you a lot of really good tracking. So quite a lot of good guesswork. So that's what we're relying on now. I mean, it's near impossible, even for an expert master tracker, to see a track on rock hard substrate like that. So, well, if I were the Inkahumas, where would I go? Just checking carefully, it is already getting really warm. Guess it's probably 85 odd Fahrenheit already. So if they haven't made a kill and they're not too hungry, it's a possibility that they've already bedded down for the day. So what you're looking for is that underbelly that sticks out to you while you're moving. Just looks a little bit out of place. can see. If that's a termite mound. Oh, no, that's a stump. And out in a lot of lion-like termite mounds and stumps. And on the positive note, Kahuma lioness.
Mad race, and Brent's disappeared off your screens. I'm back on them, and we're still doing our Ferrari safari down Gallagher shortcut at this point. And of course, you've got to be careful as to exactly how fast you go. There is a speed limit. You don't want to run the risk of sort of getting to the point. Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio comms. I'm very confused. So James has found that leopard, and we found it on foot, which is always an awesome experience. And you might even get to see a cameo appearance of Mr. Hendry, the great master leopard tracker. Scott's experience of the Ferrari safari. Judy's saying now Scott can experience what it's like to hang on like the other cameramen do.
Getting some driving lessons here, Judy.
Yeah, getting some driving lessons. Yeah. And I think the amount that we put our cameramen through should not be underestimated. And Sandy wants to know how it feels for Scott to be on the other end of the Ferrari safari. Scott looks very happy, to tell the truth.
I think it's more comfortable than when I'm driving, Sandy. gentle steps over the bumps, sort of, kind of, maybe. Not quite. And of course, while we're doing this, and you'll notice that I look back less at the camera while I'm doing it, because I'm concentrating further ahead, just to make sure that we don't cause any kind of damage to ourselves, the bush, or anything else, or jigger. But there's nothing like the feeling of the excitement, and I'm sure Scott will agree it's the same whether you're behind the camera or in front of it. That excitement when you are racing to a interesting sighting. Whee! I wonder if Steph said FC biting his nails. And Avery loving every moment of our live safaris. The excitement, it never ends. Even at times when things are quiet, it builds anticipation for the times when they are not. And at the moment, I don't think we can in any way, shape or form claim that it has been quiet. We've been so fortunate with the sightings we've had. Racing around the corner. We were exactly as far away from James as we could possibly be when he called in that sighting. Brent was not much better actually in terms of his distance. So just one of those things. And I've actually done this before where I've been racing to respond to a sighting, come around the corner and bumped into either another leopard or lions or something like wild dogs. It's one of those bad things about the bush. It doesn't provide you with boring days or predictability. We're nearly there, sort of nearly there. No time yet to let up off the accelerator.
also been all goathy in Coral Cabra, where 2 cheetahs came wandering through. And while we make our way towards the sighting of this leopard, Ralph would like to know if the territories of cheetah and leopard ever overlap. And the answer is yes, absolutely they do. Now, cheetah have enormous home ranges, and the females way larger than a leopard territory would be, usually, depending on the kind of environment that you're in. But they're 2 mutually exclusive creatures, so although they can interact, often antagonistically, they still exist within the same territories. Of course, leopards evolved to be mainly nocturnal hunters, although as we saw yesterday, never say anything about leopards because they will break those rules, and cheetah mainly diurnal predators. So although they overlap in terms of prey species, they utilize much the same territories, and even though cheetah prefer the more open habitats, leopards prefer the more dense vegetation where they can hide and ambush their prey. Sorry. Distracted. Oh, this is where they tracked him from. That's why I can see these tracks. Okay, we're getting closer now. I'm going to slow down just in case he isn't still stationary. And he might have moved, so we just keep an eye out for him. You don't want to go racing into a sighting and completely miss him. The amazing thing is that essentially, probably in almost all cases where you have a cheetah territory, there will be a leopard for whom that is part of their home range or their territorial region. Leopards are widely adaptable, very widely distributed animals. Not necessarily, that doesn't mean to say that they are numerous, but they certainly are capable of utilizing a whole range of different habitats. Putting my cap back on so I can see better. One nice thing about this dark cap is that it acts in a very similar way to those dark stripes that you get down the cheetah's face, which is to reduce glare, to help absorb light. For a diurnal animal like myself and like the cheetah, helps to shelter us. Diana, you were wondering what we are racing to. Linda was wondering what. Linda was wondering which leopard. And the answer is we think, and you've always got to be careful here, we think it's Tingana. It makes total sense that it is. We had him yesterday afternoon around the dam. The guys have been tracking him all morning. And just bear with me a moment. I need to contact James on the Game Drive channel. James, I've just arrived at the Balanites tree. Copy. Keep your eyes peeled for either Tingana or James. Copy that. Scott spotted them. Here we go. Spotted the humans. I see the humans. Done to a legendary tracking team. James is celebrating his triumph. I still have yet to spot this leopard.
Don't worry. Bye.
Where are you hiding? James giving me instructions in my ear. And I'm fairly certain that he will be just here. You got him, Scotty? Let's go forward a little bit. Let's redirect. James, thank you very, very much. James says copy to my thanks and that they're going home for breakfast. I think a breakfast well earned. Hello, boy. How are you feeling? Are we feeling better this morning? Now, what's fascinating to watch is he is aware, to an extent, of James's presence. And he's not terribly bothered by it because look what he has got with him. We said yesterday that Mr. Tingana is hungry. What is that? Is it a warthog?
I can't tell.
I can't tell either.
But it looks like
Fresh. It is fresh. I'm sure it's one of the warthogs that live around here. There's a family of 2 females and 6 babies. I think it is probably one of them. Or another warthog, who knows. Hello, boy. I bet you feel better now, huh? Having had a meal. And already starting to feel the effects of the heat. Awesome. And all to ourselves. Nobody else wants to come and join us. Epic. Epic sighting. And worth the race, absolutely, to get here. Although Georgianne says I took it too easy on Scott. But Georgianne has said that she's seen Scott hit the bumps far harder. Hey Scott, I'm hearing some stories.
I admitted you're a better driver than me, and that's why the cameramen prefer you.
Now, we've both passed, according to Lenny, our high-speed driver's test. One of those things. But it's worth it when you're racing for a sighting like this. And I'm pretty sure I could take some lessons from Scott's driving skills. You never want to miss out on the opportunity that there's always the possibility that that animal might move, might disappear, particularly when the people that have been tracking him are on foot. And with Tingana, what we've noticed before when we have tracked him is that he tends to move off if you bump into him at close proximity, which is one of the other reasons why I was speeding along as I was. And Karula, for example, tends to be a little bit more relaxed towards people on foot. It's quite common with male leopards, I've noticed. Hello, beautiful boy. I'm glad you had a meal. Yesterday when we saw Tingana, he definitely was feeling the effects of something that he'd eaten. Very common in the big cats. They very often throw up or get stomach problems, which he did both of. And he's obviously on the mend and has managed to find himself. He hasn't eaten as much as I expected him to have, unless I'm misjudging it or the size of it. At some point I will reposition to get a better view of the carcass itself. He's gonna go feed. Oh. Or not. and a girl, 22, while we sit with this incredible leopard, is somewhat concerned. The lovely lady that was accompanying James was Kirsty McLennan Smith. She is not James's girlfriend, and although we are all, of course, incredibly fond of James himself, she's one of our lovely directors. So just to put minds at ease, that is not the case while we sit with this incredible sighting of a leopard. I fear there was some devastation there. Plenty of space, just because I think he's going to feel just killed there. It's completely bizarre. I can't even tell which part is which of that kill.
Me neither.
We have to try and reposition ourselves. Let's see if we can find a nice view of both of them. He very determinedly got up and put his head behind the branches, which is quite funny. Sorry guys, bear with me. I'm trying to find us the nicest possible position, and I think I can do that, but I think I'm just going to have to go around quickly. Might have to do some squeezing here and some ducking. Well done, Scott. Scott protecting our camera. Sorry, we've got to go backwards again.
No worries.
Giving Scott the full cameraman experience. There was one wonderful moment that I still chuckle at, even though I wasn't there, where Scott was filming mating leopards when Tingana was mating with Kwetile. And he was so engrossed in what he was looking at, and our cameramen are so professional that it was only at the end of the sighting when he turned around to look at poor Jandre, who was the cameraman at the time, and Jandre was sitting in a guarri bush and had been for the entire sighting. And we've all done it. We've all been there and done that. You get so absorbed in sights like this. Looks like a warthog. You can break out the binoculars, try and have a look. Fairly certain that's what it is. Interestingly, he hasn't eaten most of it, and you'd expect him to have scoffed it down, unless, of course, he killed something else at some point during the night and he's feeling a bit full. Or the other option is that he's actually overheating from building up the heat during the chase. So yesterday we were asked about leopards getting heat stroke. Oh, but speaking of kills, Brent has found a bird with one.
Here we go, some southern carmine bee-eaters. We've been noticing we haven't seen too many of them this year. And we can see it's a bit of a juvenile on the right. The colours aren't quite as striking as the one on the left. And you can see there we go, a bit of begging from the juvenile. The adult just swallowed. Oh, off goes the adult. Off to catch something else. It's moved a bit closer to us, Bryon. It's in this. Yeah, you got it. There's quite a few carmines around this morning. I actually heard them before I saw them. You got him? There we go. Incredibly beautiful bird. Look, there's another one killing something. I can hear it. Tap, tap, tap. Back where we were. Look at that. Come out a bit. Right, there we go. Zoom in and right. Oh, it's just swallowed. No, it's still got it. Oh, it dropped it. And back. See how they often kill, looks like a wasp maybe. Even beetles, they'll beat them against the ground like that. I mean, against the branch before eating them. Oh, got it. Again, it took off. Needs a bit more beating, I feel. So there. Oh, isn't that incredible? Oh, and down. So that's where they get their name bee-eaters, from the fact that they do beat stinging insects to death, so they can't sting them while they swallow. And you can see they're out of that bright red breeding plumage. And there we go. That one's got a little bit more color. Pretty in pink. So they sit on perches like that and they keep an eye out for any flying insects around and they swoop off and catch them. And it really feels like someone's just turned on the heat in the last sort of 20 minutes. It's become incredibly warm. Oh, has it caught something? Let's see. No, missed. Just checking to see if another one took off. We're hoping it might catch something. Oh! Incredibly quick when they do catch something. Highly mobile. Beautiful, beautiful sight. So Mike, our big birder from Florida, says the carmine beaters are definitely one of his favorites on his bird list. I'm glad to show it to you again, Mike, and hopefully there might be some people who haven't seen one yet and can add this to their bird list. Oh, Bryon, which one are we on at the moment? Okay, if we come top of this little busier there, if we come out, there's a tiny little bird. Okay, we're there in the right zone. I've lost sight of it now. Oh, where's it gone? There was a tiny little flycatcher called a batis. That one's caught something again. Up on the wood there, so time. Oh, that was a small thing. We're beaten and swallowed in a matter of seconds. But it is great to have the carmines back. We have been missing them this year. Oh, and listen to that. There's a black-crowned chagra calling. Now, there's quite a little bird gathering going on around here. It's possibly because we've got a very late flowering knobthorn that's attracting some insects. That one's caught something again. Back to the hard wood to beat it to death. And that looks like a wasp. Yep. Well, that's it. 2 kills. Safari Dean's being a comedian again this morning. Says that pink beater looks like Brent's phone. Ha 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 ha. Bryon thinks it's funny.
I had a good shot.
Yes. And also, if we come across away from the birds and into what was once the Juma Dam, a nice male nyala, out in the open. Just, I can't see, oh, there's some other nyala, but way off in the distance. It's just slowly moving through, feeding off some of the weeds. So while we continue on to see what else is out and about, one last second before we leave, I just want to check something. Before we jump back to that leopard, I want to see if it's a bird we haven't seen before. On the live drives. Oh, Oh, it's disappeared into that thicket, unfortunately. But anyway, let's jump back on with Jamie, who's with Tingana, and his pork breakfast.
At the moment, I don't think that Tingana is terribly keen on his pork breakfast. Now, before the Carmine bee eaters decided to make the number of kills this morning, we were chatting about why it is that Tingana hasn't fed on his warthog. And yesterday we talked about heat stroke possibilities with leopards, and I said that they don't get heat stroke. What I meant at that was when they're resting in the shade, they don't get heat stroke. But what they can do is they can seriously overheat when they hunt, which is why, unless their chase is successful over a short distance, they are unlikely to try and continue. Ah, there we go, he's cooled down enough. Difficult for some people to watch, just for sensitive viewers. It is a tiny baby warthog. There we go, now he's feeding. He's cooled down enough to consume it. And leopards was fascinating to watch. Because although we always talk about hyenas being the great bone crunchers, with tiny kills like this, there's a good chance that he could eat absolutely all of that warthog. I've seen Karula do it with a steenbok. It was incredible. In 20 minutes, she'd consumed everything except part of the lower jaw. Especially young animals, their bones aren't fully formed and aren't fully calcified, so they're still soft in places. Notice how on alert he is, constantly sniffing the air. What's interesting about Tingana, not to inspire any kind of panic, he's absolutely fine, but he isn't in the best condition I've ever seen him in. You look at all of the lumps on the top of his neck there and around his head, those are ticks. And I personally have never seen quite an infestation like that on that thick patch of skin on a cat. I've seen it before around the softer areas, but that thick, dense patch of fur, I guess, as Scott said, he can't really reach there to remove them, so maybe it's just a coincidence. But I think maybe his time mating with Tundi, he's neglected to feed himself and to look after himself. It's taking a bit of recovery time now. He's also covered in scratches across his face. Whether or not that is from the mating, it's most likely. But you never know what goes on in these secret lives of these leopards. And he could well have had a disagreement with another male. That being said, I'm not saying that he looks ill. I think he's absolutely fine. And he is now munching away on breakfast, using those carnassial teeth to slice through bits of skin, meat, and bone. And that bite force is fierce. Might not be to the same equivalent of a hyena, but there's still an incredible crushing power there, particularly in a leopard this size. Those powerful neck and jaw muscles. And there's nothing more phenomenal than watching a cat like this in action. I'm having a quiet chuckle at a viewer's suggestion that Tingana is having a BLT sandwich, a bacon, leopard and Tingana. So, mobile patty, I think that is a winning comment. I really enjoyed that. A BLT, a bacon, leopard and Tingana sighting. I don't think Tingana appreciates the humour, though, although he's certainly appreciating his warthog. Now, I think that he had just made this kill not too long before we arrived on the scene. And I think that's why he was not feeding on it straight away. He took a moment to just cool down after the fury of the chase. Now, I've been looking around where we are. I don't see any termite burrows where the warthogs might have been hiding, although Tingana is an expert. Ah, never mind. Scott's just pointed out the one that is currently hidden behind the marula tree. Very valid point, Scott. So there's a marula tree blocking my view. Behind that is a termite mound. Yeah, no, there's no way we can see it, but you'll have to take our word for it for now. Now, we know that Tingana is a professional tunnel stalker. I don't know how else to term it. We've seen him go down after baby warthog before, and that's a brave move, because if Mom is down there, and we've spoken before about the fact that warthogs back hind quarters first, with their heads facing out when they go down into their burrows, he could be seriously injured in those attempts. So he's obviously exhibits the most incredible patience in making sure that there's nothing threatening before he descends into this termite burrow, into the termite burrows. Whether or not that was the case, or whether he ambushed this little warthog when it came out to feed, we will never know. But apparently he's also an expert at hunting aardvark. Amazing how leopards specialize, different characters specialize in different things. Crunch. Crispy pork. You could see how he is just eating bones and all. Sure. I also would have done that if I'd just swallowed that hunk of bone that he just swallowed. And while Tingana consumes his kill, Brent has found one of his most annoying friends. So let's pop over and we'll be back very shortly.
There we go, a little vervet monkey atop a guarri bush. I bet he's quite glad Tingana is far away from here. Otherwise he'd be sitting in that tree making lots of noise. So if you're a predator, a monkey is a very frustrating creature. They've got incredibly good eyesight, and they're able to sit out of reach and shout at you. Not my best monkey impression, not even a reaction from the vervet. So there's some more further into the bush. We can't really see them too well. Hello, nonsense. But we're going to continue on. I think I'm going to go look for some elephants now. We had that wonderful big bull this morning. Hopefully he's meandered into Djuma, so we're going to go have another look in that area. Unfortunately, those lion tracks have evaded me. I've done another loop around and another loop around. I just can't find them. So what I might do is just leave the area, let my brain reset, and then go back. But while we do that, let's head back to Jamie and Tingana and his bacon breakfast.
Gruesome but amazing scenes here on Djuma. As Tingana continues to devour, and I suspect he is going to eat every single part of that warthog. And I mentioned this the other day with the Nkuhuma kill. The contrasts that Africa provides. Looking at a leopard, a beautiful leopard like this male, in the morning sunlight, and then contrasted with the macabre vision of him consuming his warthog kill. It provides with the most incredible contrasts. With the sun shining through the leaves like this, wind howling. I have got absolutely no idea whether or not this warthog baby is one of the ones that we've seen fairly regularly. Monkey Man, you were saying it can't be one of the ones from the Juma pan, or that you see on the Juma camera, because we're too far away. Unfortunately, in that respect, I'm not sure that that's correct. We are far-ish, probably about 1.5 kilometers, maybe 2, although I think probably, there we go. That's a useful way of being able to, Scott's providing us with a map. Since, oh, excuse me, since I got a new phone, I haven't been able to download this particular program. But just to give you a rough idea, we are where this blue dot is over here. Here we go. And the Voyatella Dam is across, all the way across quarantine clearings, and that a big patch of blue that you're seeing there. Sorry, I choked on my own saliva there for a moment. I've forgotten how to breathe, talk, and concentrate at the same time. Thanks, Scotty. Oh yes, it could be. And the reason I say that is because in this drought, these animals have to travel much further distances in order to get access to water. I'll be very curious to see if Tingana actually eats the stomach contents. He's eating around them at the moment, and very delicately has managed not to puncture them. We've spoken about this before, the fact that the stomach contents release probably the most pungent part of a fresh kill. And he doesn't want to attract the attention of any scavengers. I'll be curious to see. Usually, the leopards actually extract the stomach contents first, once they've plucked the animal, and then eat around them to get to the organs. And quite often they drag the kill away from where they've dumped the stomach contents, so that they have extra time to distract, as sort of a way of distracting scavengers. But with this tiny kill, he's going to be finished very soon. Oh, no, I think he might be eating stomach contents there. Bit gruesome for sensitive viewers. Yep, those are the intestines. What an awesome sighting. Hard to watch for certain people, but it's not often you get to witness something like this. Luckily we don't have the super punch zoom. Sure. Just goes to show how capable these animals are of utilizing absolutely every aspect of the kill, particularly if they're hungry. And we said yesterday Tingana was looking very hungry. So it's nice to see that he has had a meal. Interestingly enough, this tiny piglet was probably mainly enjoying a diet of milk at this point, a combination of milk and solid food, which might also explain why he's more prepared to make use or utilize the stomach contents as part of the meal. Oh, no, he's just dragging that one out. He's still eating it, though. Amazing how adaptable these creatures are. Last time we saw Tingana with a kill, it was a zebra foal, and not a small zebra foal either. And this time we've seen him with a tiny little kill that almost barely seems worth the time and effort. But of course it is. Every meal counts out here. Now, yesterday evening, when we were with Tingana, we mentioned that we should keep an eye on the Juma Dam camera to let us know if he walked across the dam wall. And Lynn in Michigan, you were wondering if any of us heard him sawing before he walked across the dam wall. And I know he did walk across the dam wall. A couple of you did send through to me, as we spoke about this morning. You did send through that update that he wandered through. I didn't hear him, Lynn. and I was probably awake at that point. That being said, there were a couple of people, we had guests around last night. It might have been that we were involved in conversation and we missed it. Usually we do, when they do soar around the Djuma Dam camera, we usually hear it from our campsites, just because it's quite close. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time and don't know what we mean by sawing, it's a quite literal description of the sound that the animals make. Now yesterday Tingana, despite his stomach complaints, was desperately, or not desperately, but he was quite determinedly marking his territory and urine spraying and scraping his feet. And the next step is to call, and the sawing is a literal description of this way that it sounds. So it sounds like somebody sawing wood. And I'm not going to do it now because I'm quite close to him and I don't want to disturb him from his meal. But a little bit later we can do our best impression of sawing. And I wonder if we shouldn't carry on Brent's theme and Brent's idea, which I think is sheer genius. Brent requested that some of the viewers send through their best mating leopard impressions. And I know that he tried to imitate them, and I tried as well at one point. So, well, I think our next step is, if you guys are up to it, if you feel up to the challenge, please send us through your best leopard sawing attempts. We are keen to hear it. I promise you it provides us with plenty of joy. We absolutely love it. And I promise you that if you do, then I will do my best leopard sawing imitation. And Scott, will you jump on board?
Most certainly.
There we go. While we contemplate our best ways of imitating leopards, let's pop over to Brent and have a look at the wildebeest on quarantine.
So we've caught up with the wildebeest herd on quarantine, and I'm sure a few of you will be very happy to know that it seems like they're doing a superb job. All 10 little ones are present and accounted for. And they're on cue. A little baby call. Now, I think if we saw some quite interesting behavior there. So if we come out to the right slightly, Bryon, we see there's that adult female who's been followed by last year's baby. And that baby was still suckling. And wildebeest normally are weaned after about 8 months, unless the female loses her calf this year. Then she will let last year's baby continue suckling. So this could be one of the wildies who lost her calves to the lions earlier on. So she's letting the baby from last year continue to suckle. So normally 8 months before they're weaned, but sometimes it can be 16 months. Oh, look at that. So Jamie's challenged everyone to leopard sawing, and she has challenged me as well. So wait, let me get ready. One has to think like a leopard. It'll sort of get into my spots, and let's go. There we go, leopard sawing. And a sore throat. But let's continue on, see what else is out and about. So, speaking of leopards and leopard sawing, although I doubt Mr. Tingana is going to be doing much sawing over breakfast, but let's go see what he's up to.
From leopard sawing, and I'm glad that Brent is such a good sport, to leopard crunching, Tingana is approaching this warthog meal with absolute relish. There's no selectivity here. Is selectivity a word? As I said it, I cast doubt upon it. But he's not being, let's rephrase that, he's not being selective in the way that he eats. The entire warthog is going into his mouth and being consumed. It's actually fascinating to watch. I can almost guarantee there is not going to be one bit of that warthog left. And although it can be hard to watch and gruesome to see, it's still incredible to witness. And we are so privileged to be able to observe it, and to be able to observe it live, to bring that stream across to you all across the different corners of the globe. And Zahi, who's watching on YouTube, you were just saying how awesome it is to watch something maybe gruesome but raw and natural in a world, or on the internet, in a world essentially full of fairly unnatural content. To be able to witness something like this is special. And one of the joys, of course, about it is we can't write scripts for it, we can't change the story or edit things out that we don't like. These live safaris are the truest reflection of the way that the world works out here that we could possibly bring you. The animals write the stories, we just show you them and try to explain them to the best of our ability. And that beautiful tip of the white tail, always a giveaway when you're looking for a leopard. It shows up so clearly compared to the rest of them. And that incredibly tawny patterned coat, you can see so clearly. And I'm actually going to take an opportunity, since we have got this nice view of his coat, to talk about rosettes and spots. And I don't know how often that's been done for the new viewers. Have a look at the way in which his spots are patterned. And they almost form, they're not necessarily solid spots on the top parts of his body, especially around his back and his shoulders and his bottom. They almost form a flower with a slightly darker center, a black outline with a slightly darker center. That is what we refer to when we refer to rosettes. And it's one of the things that, for new and uninitiated people who come to visit the bush, it's one of the big differences between something like a cheetah and a leopard. So you spoke about those cheetah and Koro this morning. They have solid spots, like the solid spots around Tingana's face. Whereas with all leopards, they have what's known as rosettes around their bodies. And just in terms of other differences, stocky leopards are well-built, solid animals. They're much more powerful than cheetah. Obviously not built for the same mad sprint that the cheetahs are capable of. You can see how alert he is, even with that level of tension. Just bear with me one moment. Brent is just trying to get hold of me. Standing by. He's lying just off the road that runs between Philemon's Dip towards the Balanites Junction. People call it Finns or Rebecca's. I know it is Rebecca's. Copy that, you are more than welcome. Sorry, it wasn't Brent, it was Craig trying to get hold of me, just asking for instructions as to where the sighting is. And of course, always important to share these magical experiences. I'm the only vehicle here, you're more than welcome to join me. Craig, stand by. You should have my visual. Sorry guys, just nearly had Craig miss our sighting. Shame, he was on his way to join us. Nearly missed us completely. Awesome. There we go. Tingana currently finishing off the last. It's incredible how rapidly this happens. How long have we been sitting here? Half an hour? Maybe? And already most of the warthog is gone. We have got this view of the ticks on the back of his neck. And Clown Sharon was wondering how he could get rid of them if he can't lick there. And of course, predators don't allow oxpeckers to sit on them. And clown Sharon? One thing he could do is he could rub the back of his neck and his shoulders on something like a tree to help him get rid of them. Otherwise, if it is just a random infestation, which could cure itself in its own way, because those ticks at some point will drop off in order to breed. So they gorge themselves and then drop off and lay their eggs on grass stems for a new generation of tick babies to start invading other host species. So it could be that he got unlucky in terms of just brushing up against a stem, or something carrying a high tick load. And you'll notice, sorry, I'm quite distracted, and the reason I am is I'm just wanting to see what he keeps looking around at. I think it's just the fact that it is windy, and he has a kill out in the open, and it's making him nervous. So he's just on high alert. And I'm fairly certain that once he finishes this warthog, he's actually going to move from this area. He is nearly finished as well. And once he does move, depending on our time frame for this morning, we can come back and have a look at how much is left, and I can almost guarantee that there will be nothing. He has eaten the hair, the skin, the hooves, the organs. Watching Tingana munch away at this, you can get an idea of what a bite-sized snack it really is for him. And Sue, who is watching all the way in Toronto, there goes a leg, hoof and all. Unbelievable. Hey Tingana, no wonder you get sore stomachs. He just crunched that entire foot, including the hard, solid keratin hoof. He was obviously very hungry. But Sue is wondering, with this bite-sized snack for Tingana, how long will it take him to digest this? And a tiny meal like this, probably only about a day or so, or a day and a half. And it will sustain him, but as all opportunists, leopards are, he could well kill again, even today, especially since it is windy. This is quite a small meal for a leopard of Tingana's size. But you've got to eat while the eating's good. Now, a warthog can be a dangerous target for something like a leopard, particularly the large adults, and generally even leopards of Tingana's size will show a little bit of reticence in terms of tackling an adult warthog. They will do it, but they will be reluctant to. And Monkey Man was wondering if the mother of this baby warthog was around, would it try to protect it? And yes, absolutely. And I've just actually very recently, funnily enough, seen pictures of a warthog attempting to gore a leopard that tried to kill her baby. I'm not quite sure what the outcome of that story was. I'm fairly certain the leopard managed to actually catch the youngster and escape the mother unharmed, but the mother did put some serious effort into spearing and chasing away the leopard that was attacking her offspring. So she would try and defend it. Against a big male like Tingana, she probably would have had very little success, and who knows, she may even have been around for this attack. But generally animals, and particularly maternal figures or mothers, will be very practical about the approach they take. They will try and defend their youngsters, but they pick their battles. You're more than welcome. Sorry, just chatting on the Game Drive channel, letting the other vehicle know that they can come into the sighting. There goes the last little bit of intestine. Apparently, Final Control saw a bird fluttering about. I'm afraid I didn't see it. I got distracted. Wasn't watching my monitor as I should be.
Surely.
Surely a bird wouldn't be that close to him. Scott and I are doubting the words of Final Control. We could turn... I did see movement there earlier. I think it... Oh, there is. There is too.
Really?
There's something moving there. Huh. Fascinating. Well done, Final Control. I don't know what it was, but there's... I wonder if it's a little rodent or something.
Oh.
Tail twitch. Oh, there's definitely something there.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't see on my tiny monitor. I just can see a fly.
Oh, it's moving at the back there.
Does it go higher? Or...
No, you're perfect. It's pretty much just below the middle of your screen. Could be an insect or something similar. That's a good point. Nikki's pointed out it could be a dung beetle. Whatever it is, there's something moving. Anyway, distracted. Both Scott and myself were quite surprised that there was a possibility of a bird moving through. We thought it was unlikely. Not impossible, but fairly unlikely at that close proximity to the leopard. And just like that, while we were distracted with our mystery movement, Tingana finished off his warthog. And that is that. Meal done and dusted in just over half an hour. An entire warthog from nose to tail tip disappeared. Here we go. I said he was going to move as soon as he finished his kill. The question is, how far is he going to go? There are 2 other vehicles in the sighting with us, and since we have had the best views of him so far, we're going to let them take the lead as we carry on and follow him a little bit. And while we do, I'm talking about, I think he's going to spray, he's still scent marking. If we're lucky, he might even soar for us, and we'll get an actual impression, and not just one of ours. And as this magnificent male disappears off, we will stay with him, but as he wanders away for now, Easy was wondering if leopards will ever hunt pangolins, and if we even get pangolins here. And we do get them. They are very, very highly endangered, probably the most unusual animal that you could see out here. I think the excitement of us seeing a pangolin on a live safari would probably outdo even our Mamba sighting this morning. But yes, we do get pangolins. And leopards do occasionally, more out of curiosity than anything else, attempt to hunt them. But most of the time, quite often without success. And I've seen a lion go for a pangolin before, and it was more out of curiosity, because pangolins, for those of you unfamiliar with them, are capable of curling themselves into a tightly protected ball. Sorry, just have to concentrate on getting out here. And they're covered in a protective layer of scales. Watch heads, everyone. Scott's got it. There you go. So yes, they're covered in a protection of thick scales that's almost impermeable. We want to go this way, I think, judging by where he's going. Which way is he going to go? Things could get tricky, ladies and gentlemen, going through this drainage line. And it's all up to Tingana now as to whether or not we can actually stay with him. moment to just decide which way he's going to go, and discussing a little bit about the fact that Tingana seems to specialize in burrowing animals. Karen, you were wondering if maybe leopards have a favorite food. And the answer is it depends on the leopard, first of all. They certainly have a prey size selection. That being said, they're opportunists. As we've said, they will go for pretty much any kill that they can get. Wandering down into the drainage line. Which way is he going to go? Just want to make a decision based on his direction of movement. This area is a sort of a network of drainage lines. See if we can cross down there, Scotty. I'm thinking the same. We're going to try and go around so that we don't cause any damage to our vehicle. And while we loop around and try and catch up with Tingana, let's pop back over to Brent and I'll catch up with you shortly.
Jamie, thank you. And James, thanks very much.
Here we go. There's a bird that might be new for some of you. Whoa, off it pops. It was a red-faced mouse bird. There's still another one a little bit lower, Bryon. I think. There we go. If we zoom in and slightly up to the right. You know, little red-faced mouse birds. So quite often considered a pest by farmers, especially fruit farmers. Large flocks can decimate fruit, and you quite often find farmers will put shade cloth over their fruit trees to protect them from mouse birds and other birds that are big fans of the fruit. As you can see, as it gets hotter, the impala are already moving into shade. And they're probably going to lie up and ruminate. You see, there's the ones moving out of the sun towards these guarri thickets. Oh, and then, Bryon, if we go slightly to the right, and there we go, zoom in. Oh, he's coming towards us. Oh, there you go. The little red-backed shrike that took off there. I can't see where he landed, though, unfortunately. Anyway, the birds have been proving elusive this morning. Bryon and I have been, as we sort of get in, they take off. Get in, take off. It's just been one of those mornings for us, I'm afraid. But hopefully we'll be able to find something interesting before the end of the safari. I was hoping that there might be some Ellies in this area where we saw the bull this morning. But so far, nada. So look at this. We've got, testing Bryon's camera work here, an African vagrant. You can see that lovely lime green, feeding on a Waltharia indica. That little fly does not have, look at that. Oh, you can see its proboscis.
Now the games begin to try and keep up with Tingana. Let's try and figure out where he's going to go. He's just ahead of me there, going through the drainage line. Now I'm going to have to go all the way around it. Where is he gone? Where'd he go? I just saw him. Oh, there he is. He's going to pop out in the open gap. Oh, no, he's not. he's going to be obtuse. Can you hear all of the testicular's alarm calling at him? So he's just on the other side of the drainage line. Unfortunately, I can't see a way through here without us going all the way around. So it might have been our last glimpse of him a few moments ago. I don't think that we can get through here. We might have to go all the way around. We'll try and... There he goes. All the way through that gap there.
I can't see him.
Yeah, you might not be able to see him from your perspective at all, Scotty. I can't even describe it. He's in the trees with the leaves.
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. You can see how dense the vegetation is there. I'm going to try and just see, but I don't think there is a way around. I think if the other vehicle that's in here with us hasn't been able to, then we might not be able to. Let's see, maybe we can get through here. Sorry, Scotty.
Oh, all good.
Planting Scott in thorn trees. Luckily, with a leopard on the move, we should be able to follow alarm calls of the animals as well. That might give him away. Oh, I don't want to get stuck here. Brent will never let me hear the end of it. What do you think, Scotty? Quiet.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. This could be an interesting moment for all concerned. Here we go. Out of the way of flying branches. Now where's our leopard gone? I'm going to try and stay with him. In the meantime, Sibosiso's been looking at Tingana and saying that he's got that enormous fluffy skin hanging down there. Oh no, that's me. Sorry, never mind. Imagination playing tricks on me. Sibosiso's noticed that incredible dewlap is the official name. A thick patch of skin underneath the male leopard's throat. Sorry guys, I just need to, I'm actually going to stop for a moment and just try and get a rough idea. But yes, Sibosiso wants to know what age they start developing that at. And the answer is usually around sort of 4 or 5, you'll start to see it clearly. Although even at about 1 or 2 years old, you can start to see the development of the thickness of the neck. I'm going to send you back across to Brent so I can concentrate. Stand by, be with you in 1 moment. And then we will catch up with you shortly.
So we've found a Peltaphorum africanum, also known as a weeping wattle. And this one's actually having a second bout of flowering for the year. This particular one flowered in November and was literally covered in all sorts of fruit chafers and jewel beetles and wasps and bees. And now it's almost like there's nothing on it. Oh, we have one near impossible. Sorry, Ryan. There's a tiny little blue butterfly, but this wind has blown it away. And I'm trying to see, and I'm looking in every flower, and I'm not seeing anything. But you can see from the first bout of flowering, it already has some pods. But it is looking quite sickly. And you can actually see the tree's almost been burnt. If we come down next to the GoPros there, Bryon. So the west-facing side of this tree is looking quite sickly from this extreme heat we've been having. We come down a bit. There we go. Look, oh, there we go. Bryon's found even more burnt. But you can see the leaves are seriously drooping, and the leaves right in front of the GoPros, you can see they've almost lost that green color, and they're going sort of an orangey color at the moment. So really, really hot, really dry. The grass around us has also lost that green, that bright green tinge it had after that little bit of rain. It's starting to fade. Well, let's hope this bird doesn't fly away. It's unlikely to, but it is one of the more common ones, but we're gonna put it in the bank, so to speak. Cape turtle dove. You've lost him. There we go. Moving around, feeding on all the grass seeds that might be there. So let's leave that. Oh, some others joining the party, or not, flying past. So Virginia in Kentucky is wondering, do we get tetanus shots regularly, since we're always getting scraped and cut by branches and stabbed by thorns? We do get tetanus shots quite regularly, but generally you're not really going to have any issues from branches and thorns and things. More from rusty nails or rusty bits of a vehicle. Normally far more of an issue with tetanus, but yes, we do get tetanus shots regularly. Top of the Ziziphus, tiny little guys. Oh, sorry, there's a southern black tit that's popped off to the other thing. But if we come back out, these wonderful, beautiful little canaries. Please don't fly away. There's still one there, I think. There we go. Bryan's got them. Here we go. Beautiful little yellow-fronted canary. Like a lovely splash of colour. Off went with that dry bush behind. Another little seed eater that often seen along the ground. Only when disturbed do they fly up into the trees. Also, it feeds on all the little grass seeds. So, one of the main reasons I'm checking along here, I'm hoping, a pan that is still holding water. Literally, I think Bryon and I have checked almost every pan on Juma, and they're all dry this morning. So, I think this one might still have water if the elephants haven't splashed about in it too much. What do you think, Bryon? Yay or nay? Oh, speaking about elephants splashing around in pans. Hello, mister. He might go splash around in the pan, but he's not quite there yet. It's a lovely young bull. Quite nice, long ivory for his age. And feeding off a raisin bush. We have seen this guy a few times on quarantine in the last couple of days. Hello, little man. So, Susan, a very good morning to you, Susan. Susan is now joining us for her second elephant sighting of the morning. And Susan's wondering if I'd ever felt the skin of an elephant and what it might feel like. Also, I have edited.
He's just ahead of us in the road there. We'll be doing some interesting off-roading through the bushes. Let me just slow down. And I think he's on his way for a drink. Let's go and have a look. problem. Abel's trying to squeeze across so that we can watch him walk down the, lie down in the road. There you go, you can. I've got visual, thanks, I'm behind you. Shift forward ever so slightly. Thanks, Abel, that's perfect, don't worry, thank you. We'll try and get us a view without a vehicle in it. I'm just going to stop here. Let him relax a bit. Although he looks perfectly relaxed, he's found a nice spot in the shade. He's on his way to find water. I'm almost certain that he's probably going to go and check around Treehouse Dam. But he just wanted a quick break to stop and rest after his big meal. Wow, at least we've already got one response from our request for the leopard sawing imitation. Well done, Kyle. Thank you for being a good sport. I look forward to hearing it when I get back. And while our leopard lies contented in the shade, Brent has got some playful Ellies to show you.
So, isn't this lucky? Sorry about all the gremlins, but that little pan I thought might have water does. And now we've got another Ellie bull about to join. Looks like they're having a good time in the mud. Look at this, isn't this fantastic? I'm actually quite jealous, that looks quite nice, cooling off. Oh, a bit of argy-bargy for the mud. So really important for the Ellies, it really helps them cool down. So these two young bulls seem to be hanging out together. And it's not uncommon to find young Ellie bulls in groups. Sometimes in large groups, also with older bulls. Oh, he's sharing his mud, spraying the one behind. So I think after these two are finished playing in the puddle, there's not going to be much water left in it. So now we can see here how pans are enlarged. Oh, look at that. And this is how they're enlarged by elephants while they're playing or mud wallowing. And you can see they kick up the mud, spray the mud. So over time, a little pan like this might become a large pan. And you can see just behind them, there's a dry one. So eventually those two pans or those two mud wallows will join up and then become quite a lot more substantial. And you can see they've turned what little water was there. There was actually water before they arrived. They've turned it into soup. Hey, boys. Oh, look at that. Tender moment between two young bulls. Might turn into a bit of jostling. I love it when they rest their trunks over their tusks. It is great. It's a sort of just a lazy, almost, it's like you putting your elbow up on the table Oh, yes, you're so big. Just full of the joy of the morning. Nice little cool down. And now, right behind us is a big dust bath going on. So now after kicking up all the mud onto themselves, quite often go kick up sand and then layer it on top of that mud. Look at that. Absolutely spectacular. We are very privileged to be able to spend this much time with these incredible animals, and that they are so relaxed in our presence. Off they head, behind us, off into the bush to carry on feeding. But wasn't that a wonderful little interlude? Oh, Bryon, we're going to get dust baths. Oh, I can hear it landing all around us. Is it hitting you, Bryon? Not yet. Let's get out of the way quickly. Oh, we nearly got covered in dust there. He just sort of changed his angle a little bit. And you just hear the sand hitting. It sounded like the back of the vehicle almost. So it has been a little bit frustrating, and we do apologize for all the black screen, but what a fantastic way to end this sunrise safari with these two Ellie bulls in the mud, and of course Tingana with Jamie with his bacon for breakfast. I know he's finished it and he's off on the move, so let's go catch up with Jamie and Tingana as the thumb says adieu.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been another one of the most extraordinary mornings that we have had, and what a perfect example of the wonderful teamwork that we have going on at WildEarth. Thank you to James for finding Tingana, and thank you to Scott for hopping on the back and being cameraman and doing an extraordinary job in filming all of the magical things we've seen today. One of the best Mamba sightings ever. Sherry, just one last thing. You wanted to know if everyone at WildEarth is as good a friend as we think that, or that we seem to be, and absolutely we are. It's one of those things that we are so fortunate in having. It doesn't always happen, but when you live in the bush and you are so sort of around each other all the time in small isolated camps, we are incredibly fortunate at WildEarth to have one of the, if not the most incredible team I've ever worked with. And on that note, a big thank you to Jerry and to Nix in FC for their fantastic directing, as well as our technical department that does all kinds of stuff behind the scenes. Ladies and gentlemen, most especially, thank you to you for your questions and comments. Without you, of course, none of this would ever be possible. Have a wonderful day and join us for the Sunset Safari. Cheers, guys.